Hello friends, welcome back to your channel Demystify Frontend, and this is the sixth video in the series Build Your Own Angular Forms, where we are creating Angular form from the scratch. And if you are new to the channel, I recommend you watch the series from the start so that you can get maximum out of this video. And you can find the link to the playlist in the description. So let's get started. So far our ngModel directive supports the following controls like simple inputs, checkbox, single select. So in this video we will be adding support for the multi-select by writing the multi-select control value accessor, right? So that whenever ngModel is applied on the multi-select, ngModel will get hold of this multi-select control value accessor, and through which it can read updates from the host element, and it can also write to the host element. And this is how it will achieve the two-way data binding for the multi-select as well, right? So without wasting your time, let's get started. Okay, so now you can see this is our use case component where we have a few controls, and all these controls are like supported by our ngModel directive. Means we can have the two-way data binding on all of these controls. Like, okay, if I make a change here, you can see the changes are reflecting back into the use case component. Also for the select, you can choose between the options, and you will see the changes are reflecting back in the use case component, right? Similarly for the checkbox. So on the same line, we will be adding support for one more form control in our ngModel implementation, that is multi-select. So let's add the multi-select first. Okay, in the app component I have defined one more um, model, that is languages, and the language is none, right? So what we will do, let's uncomment this. So this is a multi-select drop down which let you choose between the languages, right? So you can select multiple languages. All right, so let's see. Okay, so let's check the console. Okay, what is this error? No provider for the injection token ngValue accessor. So if you have watched my previous videos, you must be familiar with this type of error by now, right? We also get this error when we apply the ngModel on the single select, right? We also got the error when we apply the ngModel on the checkbox. So why we got this error? Because there is no control value accessor written for the multi-select, right? So once we develop the control value accessor directive for the multi-select and expose it on this DI token, this error will vanish. So let's do that. Okay, let's go to our forms module where we will be developing this new directive multi-select control value accessor. Okay, so here you can see we have already developed a couple of directives, control value accessor directives, which supports different type of form elements. So we will be adding one more to support the multi-select. What we can do, we can create one more directive here. Now what we need to do here, we can simply copy from the single select control value accessor directive and paste it here. Now we can make the changes which are relevant to multi-select. First of all, what we can do, we can change the selector. So it should be applied on the select control which is having the multiple attribute, and we also have applied ngModel directive over there, right? So let's rename the class. Let's rename it to select multiple. Okay, and make the changes here. Let's rename this provider to select multiple value accessor. Okay, and make the change in the providers area as well. And there is one more directive for the options, right? So we have already renamed it to ng select multiple options. Okay, and if you go to the ng select multiple option directive constructor, now it should point to the select multiple control value accessor, right? All right, so what we will do now, we will export this directive through the forms module, right? only then it will get applied to the multi-select. One is this, another is ng select multiple options, right? Put them in the exports area as well. Okay, let's check. Yeah, so the error is gone now, right? Because now the ngModel which we apply on the multi-select is able to read the ng value accessor di token. And what it read through that di token, it read the instance of multi-select control value accessor. So when we apply the ngModel directive on the multi-select, you get hold of the multi-select control value accessor, right? So as you can see, for now we have applied ngModel on the single select because there is no multiple attribute, right? So that's how it is getting access to the single select control value accessor, right? So we can verify the same. So let's go to the browser and open the ngModel, right? And put a debugger in the constructor of ngModel, right? Where is this ngModel? This is under the form source directives. Okay, you must be knowing already. Now what we do, we just hit the refresh button. Now this is the ngModel directive, and how many instances of ngModel are created? It will be created as many times as we apply them onto the form elements. So we have a couple of form elements, so it will be created for each, right? And for each it will, you will see, like for each form element, this di token will provide a different control value accessor instance, right? So let's see what we have for now. So you can see in this put, okay, just go to the element ref. Okay, go to the native. Okay, you can see this is the first name, right? This is the first name, and this is the default control value accessor, right? This is what we see. Okay, let's move to the another diagram. So this is the simple input, right, where we apply the ngModel, that is our first name. So when we apply the ngModel on the first name, which is an input field, so which control value accessor instance is created and exposed through this di token, this one, default control value accessor, right? We verified the same. You can see default control value accessor, right? And on which element it got applied, it applied on the first name, which is a normal input. Similarly, if you move forward, you get another instance of default control value accessor which is mapped on another element, which is last name, which is again a simple input. Okay, let's move forward. Now see, yeah, you can see now what we get. We got the select control value accessor, right? Where it get applied, it get applied onto on the select, right? Similarly, if you move forward, this is the last element, that is select multiple control value accessor, right? So now you can see we have the instance of this newly created select multiple control value accessor directive, and for which element it is created, it is created for the multi-select, that is select language, right? This one. So now it is evident like how ngModel will read this di token ng value accessor, and based on like where you apply the ngModel, it will get the appropriate instance, appropriate reference to the instance of the control value accessor, right? Like we saw for different type of controls, like for the checkbox, it will get the instance of checkbox control value accessor. Like for the single select, when the ngModel applied on the single select, it will get hold of this select control value accessor, and similarly when we apply it on the multi-select, we get hold of the select multiple control value accessor, right? Let's implement both the use cases for the multi-select as well. That is, we should be able to write it to the multi-select, and we should be able to read whatever changes user made in the multi-select back in the use case component. Okay, so let's go to the code, and okay, so we have to make some tweaks as per the requirement. So we will have to make some tweaks here in the select multi control value accessor. Okay, if you have watched the previous video, then you will find it easy. If you have not watched, the previous video where we created this select control value accessor, then I recommend you watch that. It will be easier for you to grasp what we are going to create in this video, right? But anyway, I'll try to touch upon the key concepts which we discussed in the last video so that it is still easy for you. Okay, so as you can see here, uh, like for the single select, we are able to set the default value. We are able to write it onto the single select, and also when we make a change in this, let's say change it to male, you can see we are able to read the updated value in the use case component through ngModel, right? So these are the two use cases we will be implementing for the multi select as well. But how? Yeah, let's check that. So and like the single select, multi select also accept the string values and the object values, right? So first we will check it with the normal value, right? So this is our language drop down, and we have just provided the string value right into the value attribute. So let's go back to the multi select. So let's make some changes in the register option, right? What is this register option? So this is a method defined on the select, right? So since this is the option directive which will get applied to each of the option in the multi select, right? And what it will do, it will register itself. It will register itself onto the multi select which it has already injected right here. So we have to make some changes here. Let's go to this, and the select also maintains a option map, right, which used to hold the value of each option, right? But now since it's a multi select, so instead of value, what we will do, we will hold the reference of the options which are part of that multi select, right? So key will be the string, so it's a map, so key will still be string, but the value will be of something type ng select multiple options, right? Make update here as well. Okay, let's go to the register option now. What we need, what we have to do, so first let's capture it in the id variable. Okay, and what it should return, it should return nothing. No, it should still return the id, right? So we will return this id. Okay, so we will basically, what we will be receiving in this now, so we are expecting the option reference, right? So each option of the multi select will register itself through this, it will pass its reference here, and what we will do, we will basically put that reference in the option map, right, at this id. And we will return the this newly created id back to the ng select multiple option directive, right? So how can you pass the reference? We can make use of this. So this points to the instance of the ng select multiple option which is created for that particular option, right? Also, let's add one more property in the ng select multiple option, that is value, right? So let's go to the value setter. So when the value property is passed to the ng select multiple option directive, we have to capture it in this class property, that is ng, that is value, right? Because this will be used in the in the multi select directive which you will see now, right? All right. Okay, so let's implement the first use case, like whatever value we have passed. So we have passed these two languages, this array of two languages, to the ngModel for on the multi-select. So these two be selected, English and Russian, right? Okay, So to make it possible, what we will have to do, we will have to go to this method right value, right? So you already know, like when we pass something to the ngModel, ngModel will basically call this right value method on the injected control value accessor, right? Still, if you still just to confirm, I can show you. So let's open the multi, select control value accessor, put a debugger in the right value, right? So I'll just show you the stack trace. Okay, so you can just see. Okay, so this is the ngModel, right? So this is the ng on change, right? And what is ng on change? So that's a hook, and it gets triggered only when there is a change in the property of that directive. So since to the ngModel we pass, what do we pass? We pass this ngModel property, right? So we pass the gender onto this input property. So there is a change detection, and in that change detection, this hook is called, and it will basically call the right value method on the injected value accessor, which is the select control value accessor, right? So it goes here, right? And now, so you can see what we receive. We receive the array of these two languages, which we are supposed to write onto the, which we are supposed to select onto the multi select. Okay, so we will have to make some changes here in the right value. This is the code. This is the piece of code we borrow from the select control value accessor when we created this directive, right? What it used to do, it used to simply set the value property on the single select, but that's not the case with the multi. So on the multi you don't set the value like this. Instead you have to set the selected, you have to set the selected property like this, right? You have to set the selected property on each of the option. All right, so yeah, so there is one more thing we need to do on the ng select multiple option. We have to define one more method, right, which we can set the selected property. So we can say set selected, so it accept a boolean. Okay, and what we can do, we can simply copy the renderer call, and we can say selected, right? And it will be right. So when the set selected is called for any of the option, what it will do, it will set the selected attribute to either true or false depending on what it get, right? So in the right value we will have to find, we will have to do first we have to find the options, right, which we need to select, right? And then we will basically call this set selected, right, for each of those options we got in the step 1. Okay, so let's do that. So as you can see, this method called get option id. Okay, so we pass the value and we get the option id, like where it is registered in the option map. So since we have multiple values, so it's not a single value, but it is an array, right? So we will have to find the option id, like where it is registered in the map for each of the option. So what we will do, we will basically replace it with ids, and what we will do, we will basically map these values to their corresponding ids, right? So we can replace each of the value in the array, in the value array, by their ids, right? So we can find their ids through this get option id, right? If you go to the get option id, what it does, basically it iterate on the option map keys, right? And it compare the value which we passed to each of the option map, right? If it find a match, then we return the ID, right? Okay, and there is one more thing here, like since we are putting reference of the option in the option map now, right? So we will have to read the value attribute when we are make the comparison. Okay, so let's read the value attribute on the option. Yeah. Okay, so you remember this value attribute. So whenever this option directive is applied, we capture whatever value is passed and the value attribute in the value attribute, we captured it in the value underscore value, member variable. This is what we are using now, right? Okay, and this compare with is like for the normal when we are dealing with the strings, right? So normal we make use of this default compare with, right? In case if we have the objects, if we are dealing with the objects, then we have to provide custom compare with, right, which can compare two objects. So there is an input property compare with already here, which we will see when we work with the ng value attribute on the multi select option, right? So far so good. What it will do, basically it will map the value to their corresponding IDs in the option map. Now what we need, or now what we will do, we will basically iterate over the options and we will check each option. For each option, like if those IDs like exist in the IDs array, then we can simply call the set selected on those options, right? So let's do one thing. Let's define one method here. Let's call it option selected state setter. Like it's going to be a function which will be uh, getting the option and one index, right? Returns nothing, right? Okay, and now let's define what it is going to be. So here we get the option and here we get the index, right? So what happens? So this is our option map. We basically iterate on the option map, right? And we pass this callback. So the for each method will basically call this callback and it will provide two options. One is the option in the option map and the index of the option, right, which is stored in the option map. And what we need to check, so we already have the IDs, right? We already have the IDs of the selected options based on like we compare the value in the option map and we get their IDs and put it in the IDs array. So what we need to do, basically for each option we can call the set selected. Okay, now we need to compare, like if the IDs include the index of this, so IDs has the index of the selected options, and if it has, so if the selected index array has the index of the current option, then we can simply say like true, otherwise false means. So through this statement we select all those options which have their IDs in this IDs array, right? And what is this IDs array? This is the array of selected options IDs. Okay. Also we need to put one check, like if someone pass value other than array to the right value of the select control wheel accessor, since it's a multi select, so it should always accept an array of values. So if this value is not an array, so if it is an array, then this will be the implementation of option state selector. Otherwise what we will do, we will unset everything, means we will unselect everything, right? So in that case we just simply call pass the false to the set selected. Right, so let's check now. Oh, great. So you can see we are able to write to the multi select. Right, let's refresh it. Yeah, it's working. So let's work on the second scenario where when we make the selection, we should get the updated value back in the use case component, right? For now it is giving error. We will fix that. Okay, so let's implement the second use case. So in the select multiple control wheel accessor, there is a method already defined, that is register on change, right? So this is a method which ngModel invoke and register a callback, right? And through that callback, what is that callback? This fn, right? So this is the function which is passed to the register on change, and this is a callback function. And whenever there is a change in the multi-select, it invoke that callback with the updated value, right? So it read the option value and it just pass it to the callback function, which is registered by the ngModel. If you go back to the ngModel, you will see like when the ngModel directive is created, it does some setup for the very first time, calling this method set view change pipeline. What it does, it will just call the register on change on the injected control value accessor, and it will pass a callback which will receive the updated data, and which the ngModel can pass it back to the use case component through this output event, that is ngModel change, right? We have already covered it in the last few videos. If you have some confusion, you can just go and check out, right? So let's move back to the multi control value accessor. So now we will have to change it, right? Because what we are getting, we are not getting a single value, but we are getting array of values, right? So first we will have to make a change here, right? So this is how we register for the change event, right? Now we don't need, we can't read the value, but we have to read the target, right? So we remove this value, and we need the target, right? So on the target we will read the selected options, right? And on each option we will collect, from each option we will collect the value of that option. So when this on change is called, it will pass us the target, right? Okay, so what we receive in the value here. Okay, so as you saw, like we are passing the target, event target, to the on change, right? So it must be the something of type HTML select element, right? So we can rename it to element. Now what we need to do now, since it's a multi select, so we can't read the value directly, rather we have to read it from the list of the options, right? Okay, so on the element, on this element there is a property that is selected options, right? So through this key we will get a collection of option elements, basically the selected option elements, right? Now what we can do, we can iterate over the list of options, and we can simply read the value from each of the option, right? So to collect the option values, let me define one more constant. So it's an array which will hold the selected option values, right? So let me give it a type as well. So it's a array which can hold value of any types, right? Okay, so let's iterate over this option list. What we will do, we will just push each option value in the selected array, right? And we will push this selected array into the callback function, right? We can remove this. So what we will do, basically we'll make use of this. So we have a method already defined, we'll make use of it to read the value of this option, and that is get option value. Okay, and we pass the selected option. or we can just first capture it into a different constant. Okay, we can pass the value from this option, right? So this is a special method we wrote for the single select as well. Okay, so what it does, it basically extract the id from the option value which we pass here, and if that id exists in the option map, it read that option at that id through this option dot get id, and if that option doesn't exist in the option map, then it simply return the value. Let's check if it is working. So now let me make some selection here. Great, that's great. So it is working. So another use case is also working, like when we are making the selection in the multi select, we are able to read all the updates back into the use case component, right? Let me select French and Russian. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's select few of them: English, French, Russian. Okay, let's select all of them. Oh great, so it is working now. Okay, so this is working fine. Okay, so there is one more use case left, that is, what if we pass object instead of these normal strings to the multi-select, right? So let's check that scenario as well, where we are passing array of objects to the multi-select, and when we make the selection, we want those objects back into the use case component, right? Okay, so let's go to the use case component and let's make some changes in the app component. So for now we are binding this array of strings to the ngModel on the multi-select, but instead of this we will pass now array of objects. Okay, okay, as we worked on the single select, so you already know, like when we are dealing with the normal string values on the single select or multi-select, we make use of this value input binding, right? But to deal with the objects, we have provided one more input property on the multi-select, as we provided on the single select also, that is ng value. So we have to just make sure now we are passing, we are making use of the, now we are making use of the ng value instead of the value. Okay, so let's check. Okay, so the default values are not setting properly. Okay, we will check that. So these are the two properties which must be set here. Okay, so let's debug what is the issue here. Okay, so if we go back to the select multiple control value accessor, so you can see there is one more, there is one input property which it supports, that is compare with, right? So which accepts the comparator function. So what happens, like when you are dealing with the normal string values, then this default implementation of compare with was used, that is object.is. What it does, it compares two values, so we will have to pass this comparator function, since now we are not passing the strings to the multi-select, but we are passing the objects, and to compare the objects, we must have a comparator function which will decide like how two objects are equal, right? So we will have to pass a comparator function. Otherwise what's happening, they are comparing two objects by references here, using this default implementation of compare with, that is object is. Here we have a comparator function defined, right, in the use case component. What we will do, we will simply pass this to the compare with property, and now let's check. Okay, so these are the two objects which we passed to the multi-select, French and Russian, and these are selected, right? Let's check the another use case. Okay, let me select the first two, English and French. Yeah, it's working. English, French, Russian, all selected, that's fine. So you can see now our multi-select supports string values as well as the object values, right? Okay, and if you have watched the previous video where we developed the single select control value accessor, you must find it relatable, find it easy, right, to comprehend like how it is working. So that's all from the implementation of multi-select control value accessor directive. And so by now you can see our ngModel implementation has added support for different type of controls like normal input, checkbox, single select, multi-select, and we have written the control value accessor directive, which basically enables the writing and reading to different type of form elements, and handling the complexities involved in dealing with different type of form elements, right? So we have covered all these form controls, and if you like this video, I will request you to like it, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe the channel so that you don't miss any other video in the series. This series is going to be a bit longer series because we are creating the Angular form from the scratch, which is a very comprehensive library. Okay, so let's see you in the next video. Until then, bye bye. Thank you very much.